Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ole Walls House! Let's get fucking listening, baby! Yes!
Welcome to Ole Walls House. It's me. It's your man. It's your main man. It's Ole Walls, and I'm back with you. Episode 90. 90 times we've done this. Actually, we've done it a couple more than that, but 90 official episodes. So, just want to say, first of all, thank you to everybody. I appreciate all you guys. So, thank you so much. I always say, I'm having fun doing this. Hope you guys are having fun listening, watching, and hanging out. So, thank you guys. And as always, you know the deal. You got to do a little housekeeping. If you could, please rate, review, comment, subscribe, share, and just make sure everybody knows. Ole Walls House is the place to be. Fun show coming up. We got a couple guests this week to do a little Ryder Cup preview. Mr. Wiater and Mr. Slanovec are here to talk a little golf and a little Ryder Cup with us. So we got that coming. I'm going to talk some NFL football, some college football. And then, as always, you get my passing thoughts. So, fun stuff coming. Before we get there, though, we got a little ad to talk about from Liquid IV. So, Liquid IV, this isn't just, you don't just need if you're a performance athlete. Daily maintenance is great. Travel days. I like doing it at the airport. Airport's great. It keeps you hydrated, especially like if you're flying. And, proper functional hydration is essential. And Liquid IV is the number one powered hydration brand in America. Their hydration multiplier is one product you're missing in your daily routine. Use it first thing in the morning before a workout, when you feel run down, in the afternoon before a long flight. One stick hydrates 2 times faster than water alone. Plus, you get essential vitamins and 3 times the electrolytes of leading sports drinks. Comes in 12 flavors. And, my favorite part about it is they come in those little convenient packages. You can use it wherever. You can take it on the road. My favorite flavor is the Concord grape. I like that. They also have a sugar-free option, so that's nice too. It's easy. One stick, 16 ounces of water, 2 times faster hydration than water alone. Those 5 essential vitamins, B3, B5, B6, B12, and vitamin C. Like I said, 3 times the electrolytes of leading sports drinks. Non-GMO, free from gluten, dairy, and soy. So here's what you do. You go to liquidiv.com, or you go to the link in the show notes, and you get real people, real flavor, real hydration. So you can get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com. Use promo code OWH at checkout. That's O for Ole, W for Walls, H for House. Promo code OWH at checkout at liquidiv.com or the link in the show notes. Go get your better hydration started today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcoming in a couple of guests this week for our Ryder Cup preview. First off, the one, the only, Matthew Wiater. Matthew, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Walls. Great to see you, bud.
Yeah, also joining us, formerly known as Coach Jeffy, is just a regular citizen, Jeff Slanovec. Jeffy, how are we doing today, pal?
All good. Getting ready for a couple days of golf myself, so good start to that.
You're a star, so I'm sure it'll be nothing less than sensational out there for you. So, boys, the Ryder Cup, as we're recording this almost a week out in advance, we're gearing up. The U.S. team obviously looking for their first win in 30 years on the road. Before we start diving into the picks and rosters and stuff like that, just overall excitement level, thought, just big picture thoughts before we get into the kind of minutia here. What do you guys got for that?
I'll let my man with the American flag hat.
Sweet, here we go. Always excited for the Ryder Cup. I think one of the best events in sports, honestly. Being on the road here, I think the course looks fun. I think that there's some drivable par 4s that are going to get exciting. Interested to see what the teams look like with a bunch of new players on both sides. So definitely excited for it.
I was a lot more excited until Jordan in the pre-show told me that the first tee balls are going to be in there in the 1:30 a.m. ballpark. 4:30 or so in the past at some of the locations was much more doable. If history tells me anything, it means that I'll be missing more commercials than I will be golf shots if I choose to not be awake at 1:30. I already know about the flat screen or the curved TVs.
The curved TV.
That are on the market. But yeah, it's a good 3 days. It goes really fast. Obviously, a lot of changes from 2020, which I think it was technically the 2021, but they called it the 2020 or something, right? The last Ryder Cup because of COVID, where the U.S. steamrolled, and they're probably not going to do that here.
Yeah, let's just start there. I mean, at the end of the 2021 Ryder Cup, I think everybody would have been like, yeah, the United States team is going to Europe and they're going to win. I mean, caught in the moment kind of thing, as well as just the absolute beatdown they put on them. And this is one of the things I want to talk about. The European team looked like it was going to be in like a transition kind of phase. Some of their older stars were getting older, obviously. That kind of happens. And it didn't seem like there was this, plethora of guys on the bench, so to speak, to come up. And Liv almost accelerated it by, their older guys going to Liv, so they don't kind of have to, like, make those picks, like the Phil Mickelson pick in 2018, where it's a guy who probably shouldn't be there and isn't really right for the setup, but gets brought anyway just because of, like, past history. And then all of a sudden, like, you look at the European team, and you look at, like, some of the young guys, like, that they've added, like this Ludwig Aberg, who looks like an absolute fucking killer. Sepp Straka has been playing some good golf. Matt Fitzpatrick has taken a huge jump. Tyrrell Hatton is playing better. Tommy Fleetwood is playing way better than he was 2 years ago. Victor Hovland has turned into, like, a top 5 player in the world. And they got this Højgaard guy to go along with, your Rory McIlroy, your John Rahm, and you got Shane Lowry and Justin Rose, too. Like, this is a team that is significantly better than it looked like they were going to be. And I don't know that anybody was really expecting that so much this year. I think they thought maybe in 2025 they'd kind of have the next set of young guys in there. But I don't know if it was Liv that pushed them to this or it just kind of happened organically. And you wouldn't have seen most of those Liv guys on there anyway, like your Westwoods and Poulter and Graham McDowell. Sergio probably still would have made it. But outside of that, but it felt like that they've just kind of moved on and reloaded really quickly. And going from 2 years ago, and I was like, oh, hell yeah, we're going to Europe, we're going to Rome, we're bringing that bitch back. I don't know that that's the case. And I just don't know, like, did you guys see this coming, like, looking back the last year or so? I feel like it's like the last, 7 months, things have changed pretty dramatically.
I agree, and I think it did the same thing with us in the U.S. team. Right? Like, who did we now lose that we would have kept on our team because of Liv? Right? Like, we don't have DJ. You would think that he'd still make the team if he doesn't
Bryson
go to Liv.
probably.
So I think it's kind of...
And Bryson DeChambeau.
Bryson. So 2 guys that, you would say are some of it would be our better guys coming into it. We lose. And now they were able to actually pick better players and not, like you said, not have to, do I have to take Poulter just because I have to take Poulter kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I think it that's what helped level it out too, is it hurt the U.S. team.
Yeah, obviously the people are a little bit different. I think the people that Liv took away from the United States have a much greater impact than the people that were taken away from Liv from the European team. Just a couple of years ago, you could argue that Dustin Johnson and Bryson DeChambeau were 2 of the 4 best players in the world, 5 best players in the world, right? And now they're on the sidelines, not really playing great golf on Liv, as far as I know anyway. But
I think Bryson's been
probably
playing
would
better.
Be on this team for sure if it was not for Liv Golf. I'm a little bit more skeptical of some of the people that the Euros picked. Yeah, they have played all right as of recent, and I've been kind of an Aberg fan just because he's been fun to watch since he's come around. I think that as we get to discussing what the captains are going to do with picks, I think both of them have some interesting decisions to make with both some monsters on both sides and some guys not playing great on the American side and some new guys on the European side.
Well, let's dive into some picks then, and let's start with Europe because I think there's much less conversation there. The automatic qualifiers were Rory, Rahm, Hovland, Fleetwood, Hatton, and Lowry. Right? No, Lowry was and Fitzpatrick. So their captain's picks were Ludwig Aberg, Nicolai Højgaard. No, or did Bob McIntyre qualify? I always get screwed up because Europe is so screwed.
Bob McIntyre was an auto qualifier.
Yeah, he was an auto qualifier.
So it was
By the
McIntyre,
Euro
Hatton.
points thing.
Yeah, it was McIntyre, Hatton, Fitzpatrick, Hovland, Rahm, Rory. So they picked Rose, who I think he's like their last left of like their no-brainer picks. He's been playing some pretty good golf. Like they're going to take that guy just off history. Sepp Straka, who kind of played himself into it. And then, Ludwig was the big one. Like, this guy wasn't a pro fucking 6 months ago. Like, at the start of the summer, he turned pro in, like, what, June?
Am I correct in saying he's going to be the first player ever, maybe, to play in a Ryder Cup and never in a major?
That's correct.
I believe that is correct, yes.
Which is just asinine.
Yeah, it was a big
wild.
deal last year, like last Ryder Cup when they took Scotty Scheffler, and he hadn't won yet.
Mm-hmm.
And, in hindsight, you see Scotty Scheffler on that team, and like 15 years ago, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, Scotty Scheffler was on the 2021 Ryder Cup. And it's like, that was a ludicrous pick. Like, not ludicrous, but like it got ridiculed. Like, there was a lot of people out there like, oh, you got to take Kevin Kisner. You got to take Kevin Kisner. And like all the stats were like, no. You take Scotty Scheffler. It's a big boy golf park. He plays big boy golf, and he's the perfect fit. And the Ludwig pick has the feel that like you're going to look back on this in like 10 years and be like, well, yeah, of course they picked Ludwig. Like, who else were they going to pick? Adrian Maronk or something like that? And it's an incredible thing. But I don't think there was a whole lot of controversy at all in the European picks. I mean, if you guys think different, for sure jump in and correct me here. But
no, I mean, when they named some of the other guys that were like even in the running, I was kind of like, I don't even know that I know who that guy is.
yeah, and I think like Adrian Maronk, who was the other one that was even in the running?
Who supposedly was awful today in the event over there. I saw a couple people on Twitter being like, not the best showing for someone who wanted to stick it to him.
It's tough. It's tough to like judge them, and we'll kind of use this to transition into the U.S. picks because like it's tough to like look at like an event in between the picks and be like, yep, that's the reason why. Like like Justin Thomas. Like, yeah, I'm happy he played well at the Fortinet. And it's good to see, like, he has some semblance of his game and, like, is trending in the right direction. But I don't think you can sit there and be like, that's exactly why we pick him. We knew he was going to play good at the Fortinet. Like, the Fortinet really matters. Like, does it matter in the long run? Like, you took Justin Thomas because he's 6-2-1 in Ryder Cups and is, like, the guy that gets under the fucking skin of every European on the team and, like, gets the European fans riled up and just seems like he lives for this shit. Like, you didn't pick him because you thought he was going to play well at the Fortinet.
Well, you heard what Rory said about it, right? And they kind of questioned him about it. And they were like, if it was JT or the other guys, it could have been like, who do you want to play? And he kind of alluded to the fact of like, well, I don't really want to see JT on the other side of the tee compared to some of the other options that were out there,
Yeah, the way I was kind of talking
I might
about
be in the minority. I don't have one issue with any of the people that were picked on either side. I know there's some guys like Keegan Bradley who thought that they did enough to get there, and maybe they did. But there were a lot of other people that I think we thought might be on this team who really didn't do anything the last year or two, specifically the last year. It's pretty shocking to think that Tony Finau is not on the United States Ryder Cup team given what he had been the last couple of years. Obviously, Daniel Berger is somebody who was on the team a couple of years ago, and I think that guy's just hanging out, like rehabbing for the third straight year somewhere in Jupiter.
He's been non-existent.
Completely non-existent.
Did you see the Netflix thing with Keegan? And the day that he found out he didn't make the team?
Supposedly it's in there, right?
Yeah, so that he got a call from Netflix that they were going to be like outside of his house in 5 or 10 minutes. And he was like, oh shit, like, I'm making the team. And then he literally got the call from Zach Johnson, like, sorry, this is the call where, we didn't pick you. And he was like absolutely devastated.
That's rough.
And I think some of the United States stuff is going to come down to how well some of these President's Cup guys transition to Ryder Cup guys, right? Sam Burns, Max Homa were pretty fan favorite guys at the President's Cup last year and performed pretty well.
I've seen this before. Sam Burns, I think, won like one match at the President's Cup, but like if you look at his stats, like played some of the best golf of all 24 players there. Like his President's Cup record looks bad, but like he actually played phenomenal golf. And I have like,
and Homa was a part of like every big U.S. win. It felt like if I just eyeballs remembering like celebrations from that event.
So it sounds like neither of you two have any issue with the Justin Thomas pick.
Nope.
Yeah,
No.
I didn't get that. Because your options were Keegan, who I could get more on board with, but like there was a lot of like love for Lucas Glover, who'd obviously won twice. But it's like you think about it, that was like a month ago. Like your golf game changes very quickly. Like I know mine does, and you know pros do too. It's just a way smaller variation, but like those small variations are what matter in pro golf. But like, can you imagine? You're like now on the tee, Rory McIlroy and John Rahm, and on the other tee, Jordan Spieth and Lucas Glover. Like that's what we're gonna roll out there. Like not to be mean to Lucas Glover, but like he hadn't done shit the rest of the year, and it's like. You're just going to take him over there unproven and leave the guy, Justin Thomas, at home? Like, no way.
Right, and it's just an easier pill to swallow at the end of it. Like, if you picked Lucas Glover over JT, and Lucas Glover was awful, like, you're going to hear about that forever. Opposed to you picking JT, and he doesn't play as well, you can kind of lean on his past history as like, hey, that was the play.
Yeah, like, if you're going to go down, you want to go down with your guys.
More. Right.
Sometimes, you just got to come with what you know, and JT is what you know in these things. Like
that's what I've heard. Yeah.
And I like the Sam Burns pick, too. He's a good putter, which, they could probably try. I would imagine he gets paired up with Scotty Scheffler. You can pair him up in foursomes where they can, kind of look at the holes and try and get him putting more often than Scheffler is and see if they can, pair Scheffler's ball striking with Sam Burns putting because Scotty Scheffler's putting has been fucking a disaster. So I think that's helpful. So yeah, I don't think, there was there were some people like, oh, they're not going to, I saw so many like go fucking live bots being like, oh, they're not going to pick Brooks Koepka. It's like, you guys are fucking idiots. Like the second Brooks Koepka won the PGA, he was on that team no matter where he fucking finished in the standings. Like that was the dumbest argument I've ever heard in my life.
Yep. Is it possible that some of the biggest question marks on the United States side come from the standpoint of like guys that should be no doubters on this team going through some stretches? Like Koepka hasn't really done a ton since then. He's had a kid since then. Jordan Spieth just had a kid and was not playing great golf. Like those are two dudes that you would expect. I mean, I think they threw, if I remember correctly, Koepka was in 4 matches at the last Ryder Cup, and it feels like Spieth is in 4 or 5 just about every year. I mean, you have to pencil Spieth in for the 2 days where it's 4 ball because his 8, when he makes an 8, doesn't matter quite as much, and he's going to throw a bunch of birdies out there. But those to me seem like 2 huge question marks, and obviously Scheffler's putter is a question mark, and we're taking a guy who steamrolled everybody at the British Open and hasn't really done a whole lot else is one of them. And
I was looking at the teams, and I'm like, if you were going to rank all the players, no matter what team they were on, like I would almost say that Europe's got, like how they've been playing, 3 of the top 4 players of like consistency, right? Like if you're going to say like Rory, Rahm, Hovland, like where are you even going to go as like the top U.S. guy right now?
You probably have to go Scheffler just from consistency, but like you said, like his putter's a fucking liability right now. Maybe the guy's been in the lab for the past couple weeks, but yeah, I totally agree with you. You like look at the European team. I mean, especially their top guys, like your Rorys, your Rahms, your Hovlands. Fitzpatrick has been playing some solid golf, nothing crazy, but Fleetwood's been playing really well, and
Hovland has been the best player in the world for the last month.
Yep. Now, that said, the 2018 year, Tiger had just won the Tour Championship, was probably just completely toast because he literally left the Tour Championship and went to Paris. But Bryson DeChambeau had won 2 of the 3 playoff events that year too, and they both fucking laid an egg. So, it's different than the Ryder Cup is different than regular tour golf. But yeah, I mean, other people to be questioning, kind of like Colin Morikawa has been kind of going in and out of it, with his ball striking. And if he doesn't strike it really well, that's his game. Obviously, Justin Thomas, Brian Harmon, Wyndham Clark, who knows? I think those guys they're going to play, a match Friday, a match Saturday, and then on to Sunday. And I know he's your boy, Jeff, and I don't have a problem with the pick because I think it was probably the right pick. But Ricky Fowler sucks in Ryder Cups. Do you care to defend?
Wow. Hold on. Is this Jeff not having a response to something?
No, his record's not great historically. We remember the 4 down with 4 to play comeback when he was selected with that last pick as a rookie.
13 years ago.
That was just to secure a half.
Do we remember that, or do you just remember that?
Everybody. Doesn't everybody remember that?
Do you want to guess Ricky's record?
In the Ryder Cup?
Yep, he's played 15 matches.
I'm going to guess that Ricky Fowler is 4-8-3.
I was going to say, I'm going to give you a hint that there are a lot of halves. So you're sticking with 4-8-3?
All right, so I'll change it. I'm going to go, he's 2-7-6.
Close. 3-7-5. He's only gotten 5.5
I know my guy. Even when he's bad, I know my guy.
So, yeah, I think there's a lot of question marks.
He's an interesting pick, and I'm glad that you brought him up because I think the way he's hit the golf ball this year, and he's obviously one of the best putters that's going to be in that team room. I think given some of these interesting struggles or potential struggles that the Americans might have, I think the one thing you have going for a guy like Ricky is you can kind of pair him with anybody. He can be an alternate shot guy because he's a iron player. He can be a 4-ball guy because he's not willing or not unwilling to play a little bit more aggressive and throw it at some pins when he can. So I think from that standpoint, he kind of fits this team a little bit better than how he might be playing and what historically he's done. Because I don't know many guys on that roster that you'd be like, you can't really pair Ricky with him. And there are some other guys where I'd be like, I don't know that's a great team in this.
I agree. I think that is kind of the best thing he brings to the table is his flexibility. Because there's 2 teams that are pretty much set. I mean, I know they fucked with him a little bit 2 years ago, but Cantlay and Schauffele are playing together, and Spieth and Thomas are playing together. And I almost think Scheffler and Burns are playing together. So it's now you got a bunch of other guys kind of floating around out there. Where are you putting Homa? You going Homa, Morikawa, you got Brooks. Does Brooks play with Wyndham Clark? I know it's a lot of data shit that they do now, and they hire some firm to do it, but there's a lot of built-in teams. I mean, specifically 2 of them that if they go away from, Cantlay and Schauffele, I think that's a mistake. But, I think Spieth is going to go out, one of the times without Justin Thomas. But there's some kind of stuff baked in, and Ricky does, like you said, give you the option to do some different things.
I think that Fowler and Homa would be electric. And then I think I would do Brooks with Morikawa.
Did Brooks and Morikawa play in 2021?
They
Morikawa
put Brooks
played a lot
with
with
Spieth.
DJ.
They put Brooks with Spieth one time in 2021. They lost to Rahm and Garcia. Sergio was the best player that they had that year, which is kind of crazy in itself.
And Sergio was playing with Rahm
those
a lot.
2 together were the best. Yeah.
Fucking Spieth.
I'm not sure that Spieth and JT's an automatic duo in this. I don't. I don't think they're both playing great. Their games are kind of, at least in my head, similar from the standpoint of like if it's not tight, there's none of them that are going to get each other back on track to an extent. Like they're both iron dependent players who get really loose with the driver, who have just completely streaky putting stretches. And yeah, obviously the best Spieth JT team is going to be really, really good. And if the Americans have those two playing really well next week in Rome, they're probably really hard to beat. Because they are two dudes that you send out 4 times minimum if they're playing well, right?
You
like
definitely send them out early in this thing and see if they've got it, and then you've got your backup plan of where you're going to move them to. But you definitely start them out together, I would think.
Yeah.
Do you start them in foursomes?
It's foursomes. I think you do.
I don't know that you do.
I don't know that they
So where
will,
would
but
you
I
put
think
them?
you do. I think you do strictly. I like what Wiater's saying. Like, see what you got quick. Like, get them out early so you have time to make decisions. Like for that second set. Like if JT and Spieth have got it, and you want to flip them, like have them out early, so like Like I think you could put like a guy that like can't lay and Schauffele like late on the first session because like like you're probably sending them back out for a second time one day. Now this kind of leads to another topic. Apparently this course is fucking crazy to walk. And, like, there's been, like, a lot of chatter that, like, there's not going to be a lot of dudes playing 36 back-to-back days. Like, just from, like, the strain it's going to take to walk around the place. So, it'll be interesting to see what they do. And while we're talking about pairings... go ahead.
If that is the case, I like the Americans more now than I did 25 seconds ago.
Yeah, if you have to get into the bench a little more.
Because I believe that the Euro's best shot is throwing like 4 or 5 of those guys out there for 5 matches. Just throwing these, I guess you could call them young or for us unknown to an extent guys into the mix and just seeing what sticks until singles. So if your Rorys and your Rahms and your Hovlands are not playing 5 sessions, all of them, that doesn't seem great.
Yeah. So, speaking of the European team, we talked about Rahm and Sergio at the 2021. So, Sergio's gone. So, that's been, I think, the only guy Rahm's really, that's predominantly been who he's played with. Rory has played a lot with Poulter.
I believe, is the other one.
Okay. And Rory played a lot with Poulter over the years as well. So, their guys are gone. Justin Rose used to play with Stenson all the time. He's gone. So there's a lot of, there's going to be a lot of new matchups for these guys. Fleetwood doesn't have Molinari out there just fucking making everything with them this time. Thank God. So where do you think they go on the European side with some of the matchups?
Rory and Fitz, maybe.
I could see that. They like to kind of pair up the guys from the same countries. It's kind of like the pod system, almost out of necessity. Guys that kind of speak the same language stuff, but shit, most of these guys are English speakers predominantly anymore, so that's maybe not as big of a thing. I mean,
if
Rory with Rose, maybe?
If I was Luke Donald, you go, Wall.
I just said Rory with Rose. That was just something I had, but go ahead.
Oh, if I was Luke Donald, I think you have an interesting dilemma because, like Matthew said earlier in the show, you've got probably the hottest and best golfers in the event on your side, right? And that is electric for 4 balls, where you're just going to create more opportunities if they're the best players that are out there, right? So I am interested to see if he chooses in the early foursomes to keep them together and try to form, we'll say 2 for sure. These are the squads, right? Do you put Rory with Fitz or Rahm with Hatton or Hovland with Rory? And
you can
put together 3. You can put together 3 stud groups in those alternate shot foursomes matches, but that's going to require you to put those top guys out there for 5 matches. And if they want to win, I think they have to. I don't see how they make it so that Like, I would love to see Rory McIlroy play with Ludwig Aberg in 4-balls. I think that's what they should do. I think they should take the best players and pair some of them with these young guys like Colsaerts, who's just going to be a bomber, right?
You mean Højgaard?
Or Højgaard, I'm sorry. Colsaerts is the bomber from 10 years ago.
I was going to say, he was on one of the teams.
The vice captain?
He is one of the vice captains. That's where I saw his name. But, like, throw Højgaard with Hovland, right? Like, throw Bobby Mack with Shane Lowry, like Fleetwood.
Bobby
like,
Mack
just start throwing dudes together in 4-balls.
I'm setting the
for
Bobby
4
Mack
sums.
matches played over under at 2.5.
Yeah, but he's got that cool shot from the Scottish Open.
Yeah, him. I don't think we get a
Hatton
ton.
would be another electric.
Yeah, that would be fucking awesome. Just cameras on that one at all times, and hopefully they're losing
All times.
just for the sake of us
Yes.
getting the fucking reactions.
Yes.
I don't think we see
And I
a
guess
lot of
that's my
Højgaard,
thing when I look-
McIntyre, or Straka.
Agreed. Probably of those three, Højgaard probably plays the most.
Sepp Straka makes a ton of birdies. So I think Sepp Straka probably plays both 4-balls, doesn't play in the foursomes, and then plays singles. I could see Højgaard or McIntyre, if they have a bad first day, maybe missing the Saturday. I don't know. But if it holds true that this course is that tough, like, to walk and navigate around, you're gonna have to get deep into the bench and get everybody, 3 matches and kind of spin them around. Did the Euros do any 2 matches last time? No. But they have done that shit in the past. Here's another, interesting topic. I kind of mentioned it, but the European team, no Sergio, no Stenson, no Westwood, and no GMAC for the first time in, I don't know, since 2002 that all of them aren't on the team. And for the United States team, this is the first time since 1995 that there's no Tiger or Phil in any capacity. So 2021, neither of them were on the team, but Phil was still an assistant captain. So first time that those guys aren't even in the room. Now, I think Tiger still gets looped in, but from what I know, he's not going to be there, in the room. So that's an interesting thing, and I think that is more beneficial for the Americans, that the Tiger Phil aspect is out of the locker room than it is for the Europeans, not having the Sergio Stenson Westwood crew, because I think those guys were, they'd won so many fucking times and just bashed the shit out of us and had created this good mojo. And with the Tiger and Phil, it just felt like, it's 2 huge personalities always at odds with each other. The U.S. team does terrible when Tiger's on the team. Tiger's only won 1 Ryder Cup in his career, if I'm not mistaken. So just your thoughts on both of those situations.
I think, one, the viewership in general is going to be less in this Ryder Cup because a lot more unknown names playing golf. And my second thought is that I still think Tiger should show up with an American flag draped around him for the first tee and get the boys fired up.
The first tee is going to be wild, too. I think it's 5,000 people.
I don't think it's a huge. The American the American team room seems to be better than it's ever been, in terms of just simply the camaraderie, the brotherhood's a weird word to kind of use for golf, but I actually think that it's more interesting to see what happens in the European team room, because I believe that most of the Americans were very okay with you're on live and you only play once a month or whatever it is, and you get 4 chances to show us you still got it, like Brooks does. Show us you still got it. And Brooks is in the team room, right? On the other side, I don't know that there's as much animosity, even deep down from Rory's perspective, as it pertains to the Ryder Cup in comparison to the PGA Tour. And those guys, many people have said it, they're probably 3 or 4 of the next for captains if the live
Stetson
thing
was
doesn't
supposed
happen.
to be the captain.
Right. Correct. And then you've got, at some point, Poulter's going to be a captain. At some point, McDowell's going to be a captain. At some point, all those guys, Sergio's automatically going to be a captain, right? Like, it was Justin Rose then after that. Like, the next decade and a half of European captains was done. And those guys won a ton of Ryder Cups, right? Like, it is a little interesting to see how that plays out because there is something to be said for the fact that, like, Sergio Garcia won 3 points with John Rahm in the last Ryder Cup, and now he's not even allowed on premises to,
Sergio
like, be with them.
Has
and
played,
instead they're bringing
so Sergio's
Nikolai
played
Højgaard.
45 matches
Right, like,
in his career. He's 25, 13, and 7. 28.5 points.
that's
Westwood had played 47 matches. He'd went 21, 20, and 6. Stenson was only 19 matches, 10, 7, and 2. Still pretty good. Justin Rose, 23 matches.
which don't
13,
sound
8,
great,
and 2.
those last two, because they're like 500. But 500 in this thing's pretty incredible when you look at what the American
you start going down
records
like
are,
the
which is
American
all the
team.
more reason why JT has to be on the team.
Yeah. Like Dustin Johnson, who went 5-0 in the last one, is 12-9. I mean, you start looking at Phil and Tiger are abysmal. Phil's played 47 matches. He's 18, 22, and 7. Tiger played 37 matches and is 13, 21, and 3. There was a stat that...
And I'm pretty sure the numbers are even worse if you take singles out.
In singles, Tiger is... Let me find it here. Singles is the first column. Tiger's 4, 2, and 2.
There you go. Like, there's...
He is 4, 9, and 1 in 4 balls and 5 and 10 in foursomes.
There, like, that's atrocious.
Atrocious. I saw a thing that if you take, like, a certain stretch of time, like, Tiger was winning, like, 37% of his tour events, and he's got a 39% winning percentage in the Ryder Cup. Like, he was having more success against 155-man fields than he was at the Ryder Cup.
Now, do we think that, not to deviate, do we think that has something to do with equipment? Do we think that has something to do with, like, golf ball?
No, because I think they always played his ball. I don't think you're walking up to Phil and Tiger and being like, Steve Stricker's like, hey, let's play my fucking golf ball today. I don't think that's happening.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, those are team things, right? Like,
no, I think if you played with Tiger, like, you played Tiger's ball. And same thing with, like, Phil. I think if you played with Phil, you're playing Phil's ball. It's mind-boggling that Phil and Tiger are so bad at this thing. Oh, well, we lost Jeffy's camera.
I was going to say, where did Jeff go?
We may have lost Jeff entirely, Matt.
He didn't agree with your point, so he said, fuck this.
He'd had enough of the bashing. So, yeah, those are kind of two interesting things. There, he's back.
computer needed a little juice.
Little juice. We were running on empty. I was just looking at some other fucking atrocious U.S. Ryder Cup records here as I was going through. Matt Kuchar, 6 and 7 and 2. Just fucking Jim Furyk. Oh God, 10, 20 and 4. Stricker, 3, 7 and 1. Just fucking bad.
I mean, the other thing, I don't know what the number is for the Europe guys, but we also have 3 other guys on our team where this is only their second Ryder.
Yeah.
And Xander, Scotty, and Cantlay. It's only their second one. And that may be true for a couple Europe guys too. I didn't look that up.
Yeah, U.S. team. This is second. So there's only on the U.S. team. There's only 4 guys who played in more than one Ryder Cup: Ricky, Spieth, Koepka, and JT. JT has 3. Koepka has 4, and Ricky and Spieth both have 5. So 8 guys are playing in their first or second Ryder Cup on the U.S. team. On the European team, they've got Hatton, Hovland. It's only Hovland's second. So Hatton, McIlroy, Rahm. It'll be Fitz's No, it'll be Fitz's third. It'll be Fleetwood's third. It'll be Lowry's second. Justin Rose. So they only have 4 guys too. So there's a lot of guys with only like a second year in their thing. I think the nice thing for Europe is they're running out all these guys in year 1 and year 2, like in friendly confines. Like the Americans are sending a group that all but 4 of them have never even played a European Ryder Cup, and it's obviously a very, very different thing. What's interesting about the course, I think, is that, in Paris, they set the thing up where it was fucking stupid. Like, you missed the fairway, and you were in fucking knee-high rough. And the U.S. team had zero adaptation to that, and just was trying to hit drivers everywhere, while Fleetwood and Molinari and Stenson and those guys were all, banging 3-woods and long irons out there and just keeping it in play. I saw a stat, and I don't remember exactly where it was or when it was, but the U.S. team is actually ever so slightly, I mean, it's like a couple percentage, like 0.6 percentage points, a better driving team. So I don't think we get that. I know we've seen some stuff like, the rough was really high like 2 weeks ago, but I think that's just in the phase where they grow it up and then, kind of bring it back down and like kind of get it under control. But do you think the Euros, try to do like we're really going to trick this place out kind of deal again?
I mean, I think it's to their benefit to grow the course up and grow the rough up, especially when there's what it looks like there's 3 potentially drivable par 4s. Right, where the U.S. guys are more going to put the foot on the gas and try and go after it probably than the Euros are. At least that's
what. Do you think that's the thing, though? I don't think so. Like Ludwig's going for it. Rory's going for it. Rahm's going for it. Hovland's going for it. Fitz is going for it.
Colsaerts Højgaard is going for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Sepp Straka is going for it.
Like, I almost think if you look at like the U.S. team. Like Morikawa, maybe not. Harman, probably not. Ricky, probably, yeah. But like Cantlay and Schauffele, probably. But like they can put the restraints on if they want. Like you look at the U.S. team, there's only like a handful of guys who are like, oh yeah, that's like Wyndham Clark, Koepka, Scheffler,
Brooks,
JT, because it's just kind of in his nature. But like I don't know that we see this thing all crazy tricked out. I think it might. It's not going to be like Whistling or Hazeltine or they fucking there's no rough anywhere. But I don't think we see Paris where they just fucking have it, past your ankles up to your knees.
So I think if they choose to not do that, I think it's telling of what Luke Donald's plans are, because most of those guys that are going to try to take it deep off the tee for the European team are guys that you would expect to be 4 minimum, probably 5-match guys for Europe, right? Like, it does you no good to trick that place up if you're going to be sitting or throwing Rory, Rahm, Hovland out there every single match. Right? I think you could say that most of those Americans are actually comfortable laying back. Like you see JT hitting a lot of 3-woods. Brian Harman's not a long guy to begin with. You see Ricky laying back. You see Morikawa laying back. Like Scheffler's willing to not hit driver unless he had. Like I think that it's in the benefit of Europe to get the Americans trying to hit it further.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of quite the inversion from, what the case has always been. I mean, the case has always been the Americans are the bombers. They hit it everywhere, and the course setup is accordingly made and, back and forth. And like I said, Hazeltine, Whistling Straits, even Medina, like there was fucking no rough anywhere. Like there was like the second
But
cup.
think about 3
like
of the guys who aren't there anymore. Dustin Johnson, Bryson DeChambeau, Tony Finau.
And even
Like,
going farther back, Tiger and Phil too. Like those guys, like all those guys kind of blow it all
Tiger,
over.
Phil, and you look at the guys. You look at the guys that Europe's losing. Sergio, striker. McDowell, ball striker. Poulter, ball striker. Like the guys that aren't there for them anymore. Lee Westwood,
did we just
ball
call Poulter
striker.
a ball striker?
Well, if he's going to do anything, he's not an off the tee guy, right?
No.
Like he's an iron player and a putter when he plays well. So, like you've got two completely different sides in terms of what's not there anymore versus what they historically have been kind of perceived as.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting. I like your point. Like, you're going to kind of know what Luke Donald's thinking when we see the course set up. Like, that's going to be kind of a telling thing. I like that. I hadn't really thought of it that way. Before we get to, predictions and what the odds are kind of sitting at, anything that I've missed that you guys were thinking we needed to talk about?
Yeah, the uniforms are awful.
Yeah, I had that on there. I was going to end with that, but we can go to that now. Yeah, our fucking uniforms stink. They stink. And they're the same
The only thing I thought was nice
every year.
Every year. They do have a nice quarter zip. It's a blue one. It's got like some stars on it. I think that looks pretty good. But besides that, I feel like we just use the same shirts all the time.
We do. The blue one.
I don't understand how we mess up making like very cool, clean looking stuff when we have awesome colors to put together. Like, it's not like our flag is made up of like orange and yellow. Like, you can do some pretty cool, clean, classy stuff with red, white, and blue. Like, it's not like your pant colors have to be real weird. You don't have to stick to like black or khaki or something. Like, blue is clean. You can wear white. Like, it's weird.
Yeah, I just don't get it.
I'm trying to show. I don't know if it's going to pull. Like, this is sweet. This puller, I think that's the one you're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about. Yep. That's the one.
That hoodie's stupid.
Hideous.
This, I mean, I guess it's retro. Like, I can get behind that enough, I guess. That's okay. But, like, that's only the captains are going to be wearing that shit.
Yeah.
That shirt's terrible.
That's nice shit. Terrible.
There's more. It's not showing me more. I cut them down. Like, this one here stinks. This blue one.
That one's the best one.
And it's there every year.
They wear that every year.
Every year.
It's like,
every year.
Get a little creative. You know what? I was watching the 2010 Ryder Cup was on, and they were wearing black on the Sunday. That was kind of sick. I mean, there were some questionable choices for the rest of that Ryder Cup fashion-wise, but, like, what's wrong with mix a little black in every once in a while, or just, like, do something. Like, have some creativity.
The Euros are not doing anything funky, right? I know they've had some years where they deviate from their, like, baby blue, and they've thrown out some, like, burnt orange and weird stuff. They're not doing any of that, I don't think I remember seeing.
I
didn't see anything that looked like... Yeah, anything off the wall.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. But yeah, every once in a while they go kind of crazy. But yeah, for the most time it's like a baby blue. Yeah, there's the burnt orange. That's showing up from a couple years back. Yeah, I can't see anything for what the uniforms will be. But yeah, we lose the uniform battle every year.
It's important. You gotta turn that around.
You gotta look good to feel good to play good.
100%.
All right.
Should mix in some red pants one year.
I'm with that.
We could, it's blue pants every time.
Blue or white. They'll throw white out there one day and be like, oh.
I got a solid pair in my closet that they should put into rotation with the flags all over them.
Yes, they should mix. They should look to you a little bit. Your Saturday invite American flag thing is better than most of what we trot out there. All right, I think it's prediction time, boys. What do you, Jeff? Let's start with you. Oh, I should tell you the odds currently. Odds currently are U.S. -120, Europe +120, A tie is plus 1,200, and then if you just do the who retains the cup, the U.S. moves down to minus 150, and the Europeans remain at plus 120. So go ahead, Jeffy.
I think it's going to be a really good Ryder Cup. I think it's going to be really close. I think a lot of it comes down to the decision making in terms of matches played by some of these people. I think that the United States has more depth and more legitimate experience, if that makes sense. I think the PGA Tour is a higher caliber tour, no question, than the European Tour. The bottom half of our roster has won PGA Tour events. They have won major championships. The bottom part of the European team has not really done a ton of that in the events that are the biggest and brightest on the stage. So I think it comes down to whether Luke Donald, I've said a couple times, is willing to throw 4 or 5 of those guys even out there for 5 matches. Like, Tyrrell Hatton is a match play guy. Fitzpatrick has the game to be one. Justin Rose has showed up as a gamer in Ryder Cups. Shane Lowry can ball strike people to death. And then you've got arguably the 3 best players, not Scotty Scheffler being the other one, but Rahm, Hovland, and Rory have been the best players in the world, arguably, for the last month and a half. If you throw those guys out there for all 5 matches and you find a way to get some of those other guys, a Hatton, a Fleetwood, 4 or 5 matches, and you just say, sorry, some of you guys, you're going to play once maybe before singles. I think the Euros are really formidable, but I don't know that they're going to do that. And because I don't think they're going to do that, I'm going to take the Americans to win by a point.
So 14.5 to 13.5.
Really close.
Matthew?
14.5 to 13.5. Yeah, that sounds right. We'll go with that.
Yeah, it's out of 28.
So I'm going to say what I've been saying the last couple months about this, is that it is going to be a tie. I am taking tie, rooting heavily for the Americans, obviously, but if you're asking my betting place here, it is tie.
Okay, do this for me too, because I'm just formulating things in my head. 2 most important players for each team this week too. So Matt, since we got you going, since you're hot, who are the 2 most important players for each team? And it doesn't necessarily be like the guys who have to play 5 matches. Like, it could be a guy who's going to play 2 or 3 matches, but has to play well. Like
Max Homa. And so you're saying they have to come through, like they got to bring it, and I think JT's got to be the other guy. Yeah, we got to get good because JT's going to play, so he's got to be good.
Yep.
And Max Homa's my other pick for the American side, and I think if Jeffy's point is right about the Euros going heavy with their studs, then their top guys are their most important guys. I think it's Rory and Rahm.
Yep.
Jeff, if those guys are going to play a lot, which I agree with Jeff, that if they're going to have a chance, they got to play a lot. I think those are their most important guys.
Jeffy?
I agree with what Matthew said. However, I don't know that the numbers say that we can expect those European players to not play really well. So because of that, I expect Rory and Rahm to both play well. Whether that means they automatically win matches or not, I don't know, because of what Jordan said before, right? Like, you can lose matches and play really, really well if you just run into a buzzsaw on the wrong day. So I'm going to say on the European side, the 2 most important guys in terms of them getting something out of them is number 1, Tyrrell Hatton, and number 2, Victor Hovland. Those to me are the 2 guys that I think it's really, if Hovland makes that leap of continuing to do what he's doing in terms of what he's done on the PGA Tour the last 6 weeks and starts doing that for them, assuming that Rory and Rahm are going to play well, like, that's going to be really hard to beat. I think the 2 that are the most important to the Americans, because I think they're logically the 2 that we all know are going to play together. We all know they're going to go out in foursomes. They might go first in foursomes. They're either going to go first or last in foursomes, I would imagine. I think the two most important guys are Xander Schauffele and Patrick Cantlay. They both have the games to be Ryder Cup studs. They both play off each other so well. They vacation together. They spend a ton of time together. Their wives or girlfriends are close with each other. And they've been people that we've been willing to throw out in 4 or 5 matches before. At least my brain tells me that. And if they go out and they get waxed in one of those first foursomes matches, do you put them out there in 4 balls? If they go out there and they steamroll somebody like they have in foursomes, are you going to just be like this? They're going all 5, right? Or like they're at least going to set the tone that this pairing's not going anywhere. I think they have a chance to be like the JT Spieth auto pairing or the Spieth Reed auto pairing that we've set out there before.
I think you both make great points. I'm stealing a little bit from each of you on one side or the other. Starting with the Europeans, I think the two most important people are Victor Hovland, and for a lot of the reasons you just laid out, Jeff, he's made this huge jump. 2 years ago he played all 5 matches. He went 0-3-2, only got 1 point. He's a totally different golfer than he was then, but the Ryder Cup's a different animal. So I think it's really important for the Europeans for him to play well and be like the third anchor guy for him to go with Rahm and Rory, because I think, like you said, Rahm and Rory are going to show up. And I think the next most important guy is Ludwig. I think they're going to lean on this guy. I think he's playing at least 3 matches. He might play 4. And I think he's going to find himself in big moments. And if this guy is who they think he's going to be, and he does it right away, I think he energizes the fuck out of that team. If they're like the fucking young rookie is fucking out here and he's fucking putting it on, fucking Cantlay and Schauffele with Victor, or, he's playing whoever, I think that's huge for them. On our side,
I think he's definitely playing 3 matches. He's definitely playing 4 balls both days. You don't take him if you're not playing him in 4 balls
because he drives it so fucking good. Like, he doesn't miss
Yep.
fairways and he bombs it. So, like, it's not like you can't play him foursomes. So, yeah. For the Americans, I think Justin Thomas is the most important. He just can't get drum fucked. Like, he can't go out there and just fucking be laying an egg. Like, he doesn't have to win every match, but he just has to be competitive. And I'm really waffling on who to pick of these two for the second most important. But I think it's Koepka. Koepka's coming off having that kid. I think his kid was in the ICU for a little bit. Hasn't been playing the best golf. He's playing
born
this
early,
week.
I believe.
Yep, he's playing this weekend in Chicago. So, like, he's playing till Sunday and then getting on a fucking plane over. Like, that's not ideal. And I think Koepka's going to be a guy that they're going to need to lean on. I think, you're looking for your 4 top point getters on the American team. I think are going to be Cantlay, Schauffele, Scheffler, Koepka. And if those 4 are, like, doing well, that's winner. So I think Koepka's, maybe, just right behind Justin Thomas and most important. Now, for my predictions, my head is just telling me the European team is going to just fucking do it to us again. That there's just going to be fucking Ludwig's going to be out there driving it a mile, fucking hitting it to fucking 6 feet all day. Rory's going to be fucking hatless again because he said on the podcast with Colton Oast he's not wearing a fucking hat. He's going to be out there with no fucking hat on, just fucking giving it to us. Tommy Fleetwood just doing all their fucking European bullshit. They're going to be fucking, all these fucking dumbass European fans over there. And everything in my head is telling me Europe wins 14.5, 13.5. They steal the cup back. We still can't win on fucking European soil. But everything in my fucking heart tells me this is it, boys. This is the time. Fucking Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth and Scotty Scheffler and fucking little Brian Harmon and Brooks Koepka, they're fucking leading the goddamn USA across the pond, and they're winning fucking 15.5 to 12.5. Let's go. You guys got anything to follow that?
Jordan is ready. I have another thing to put on the table here. Is the crowd going to be any different for Europe in Rome than it is where they put any of their other, or they hosted any other places? Like,
I don't think
more
so.
rowdy, less rowdy? Is it just going to be the same? It doesn't, because it doesn't in the U.S. It doesn't matter. Like, does it matter for them and where they decide? Do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, it was the same in Paris as it was in any of the Ryder Cups they've played in, England and Scotland, and I don't know if they play any in Ireland or anything like that, but I think it'll be the same. Anything else, gentlemen?
No.
Or I think we've covered most of it.
That's all I've got, I think.
Well, boys,
That's all
as
I've
always,
got.
I appreciate you, Matthew, Jeffy. Thank you once again, and go USA. NFL Sunday, Week 3. What a day! What a day! I did say this. I was like, it was kind of the early half of the games. It was kind of boring. Then Scott Hansen hops on and he goes, "Hey, although there's only one game that's one score, but it is the witching hour." And he's like, that's not gonna be like that. And holy shit, was he right? It all turned around. The games got interesting, and I think like there were then 4 games that were coming down the stretch that were one score games. So fun Sunday as always. Just a miraculous day for the Green Bay Packers. They come back. They score 18 points in the fourth quarter. They were getting shut out until they kicked a field goal with 11 minutes left. And then Jordan Love led the comeback. His first ever career start at Lambeau Field is a fourth quarter comeback. And boy, oh boy, was it fucking ugly until then. I mean, oofta. It was pretty ugly out there, man. I mean, they start with that, trying to go for it on fourth down with that like throwback to Love, and the running back shorts it, and then Love slips, and he airmails a guy. Love airmailed Musgrave, who was wide open down the middle of the seam at one point. There were penalties on top of penalties. There was a a punt return for a touchdown. The ghost of fucking Jimmy Graham scored a touchdown. I believe there were 11 penalties on the Packers in this game. Excuse me. That's not a winning formula. Not a winning formula. The Packers looked bad, man. Like, really bad. You know how bad they looked? They got relegated to my second TV. Red Zone moved over to the big TV. Then when I wanted to put it back on as they started scoring, I was like, I can't fucking move this. Like, I got to leave it over there now. So I had to finish out the game watching on the little TV. Things really took a turn for the Saints in the wrong way when Derek Carr went down. Derek Carr had been playing a pretty decent game. At least it felt like. I don't know what the stats say. 13 of 18 for 103 and a touchdown. Not too shabby at all. But yeah, everything kind of took a turn. Then, like I said, the Packers got that field goal. Jordan Love ran one in after Jalen Reed dropped one right on the fucking goal line. Was just going to take 2 steps in. And then there was another catch to Romeo Doubs in the back of the end zone. Romeo Doubs has found a way to play some pretty good ball these 3 weeks. It'll be nice if Watson gets back. This was that said, the Saints did have a chance to win this game. They had a very makeable field goal, and they just pushed it outright. I mean, they got right in the field goal position with a minute left. So, pretty lucky to win this game. And, I mean, I was after the first half, I was like, holy shit, this team may not win. I don't know if there's 6 wins out there for. And, hey, maybe there still isn't, but they're 2-1 now. They got a home game on Thursday. Lions, short week game for the visiting teams, always a little more difficult. I don't know if they get any of Watson or Jones back, or if Bakhtiari plays, or what the deal is with Alexander. But who knows, man? I mean, this team is it's going to be a roller coaster ride. I think is what it all boils down to. Is that you're never going to know what you're going to get. It's going to be something different each week, probably. It's going to be different from half to half, maybe quarter to quarter. Love played good in the fourth quarter. Like, props to him for showing some guts. That's what I ripped on him last week. He dug down deep and got the win. But, I mean, his stat line's horrendous. He's 22 of 44 for 259. That's a QB ranking of 66. 50% completion rating, obviously. Threw an interception. And then did get sacked just once. But he showed up this week in the fourth quarter. So who knows, man? Who knows? But yeah, the first three quarters, that was bad football. Bad football. I don't know that the Lions are gonna. If you play that bad against the Lions, I don't think they're gonna. It's gonna go. So I don't think there's gonna be an opportunity for a fourth quarter comeback like that. The Lions, 20-6 win over the Falcons, who obviously just took us down last week. Granted, that means that's nothing. It's always we beat this team, they beat that team, but this team beat us, and then they beat that team, and that shit never pans out. Elsewhere around the league, the Miami Dolphins scored 70 motherfucking points. 7-0. 70. We're going to read off all the touchdowns just for funsies. First off, they scored a little bit over a minute into the game. Tua finds Tyreek Hill, who then just takes off 54 yards. Is it Devon? Yeah, Devon Achane, who's on my fantasy football bench. 51 points. He scores halfway through the first quarter. Then Tua finds Achane again early in the second quarter. Then Mostert runs it in late in the second quarter. 20 seconds later, Mostert runs it in again. Don't know exactly how that happened. Must have been a turnover, obviously. Start the third quarter. Mostert runs one up the middle for a touchdown in about the middle of the third. At the end of the third, Mostert catches a pass. Don't worry, Achane, he's back. He catches a pass at the very start of the fourth quarter. Robbie Chosen, formerly Roby Chosen, formerly Roby White, he caught a pass in the middle of the fourth quarter. And Achane, also in the middle of the fourth quarter there, just why not? One more. Tua goes 23 of 26. He didn't throw his first incompletion until 3:05 Eastern. So about 2 hours after the game started, he threw his first incompletion. 23 of 26 for 309, 4 touchdowns. I believe that's a perfect passer rating of 155.8. Achane, 18 carries, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had a bunch of, I think he had a couple of receiving yards as well. Let's slide on over to that tab. Mostert also ran for 82 yards and 3 touchdowns, of course. Hill had 9 receptions for 157 yards. Mostert had 7 receptions for 60. Achane had 4 for 30. Holy moly. Now, I know the Broncos stink. I know they stink. But are the Lions good? Is that a possibility? Sorry, not the Lions. The Dolphins. The Dolphins are good, but are they really good? I can remember there was a point last year where I flirted around with the fact that the Dolphins may be one of the best teams in the NFL. Sorry, a little congested here this morning. But maybe they are. Now, again, you got to take it for what it is. The Broncos stink. But 70 points, man. Just absolute drumming them. Just fucking boat racing them. That's impressive. Let's keep it rolling here, though. 49ers, they were rolling. They rolled the Giants on Thursday Night Football. The Purdy Pumpkin Watch, still negative. Still not a pumpkin. The 49ers, man, they are good, too. So many weapons. I mean, you got CMC, Debo, Kittle, Ayuk, Mitchell. That's a tough team. Their defense is fucking good. Just, I think those right now look to be the 2 best teams. Obviously, you would have had the Cowboys in there before this past week. But, things happen quickly in the NFL. Any given Sunday, right? What many people thought were the 2 worst teams in the league, the Cards and the Texans, they both get wins against teams that people thought, are going to win their division. The Jags and the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Texans, they did some things. They were blocking field goals. They were returning kickoffs with a fullback. It was for the Jags, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And, now they sit kind of in a tie for fourth and a tie for second in their division at 1-2. The Colts, who also had a big win, are atop that one. But yeah, and then the Cowboys, they go to what many people thought was going to be the worst team, but a team who was held to lead at halftime of every game, the Arizona Cardinals. But the Cards, pull it off this time. The Cowboys make some bad mistakes. They're 1 for 5 in the red zone. Dak throws a interception. 4th and 4 from the 8. They could have kicked the field goal, but that was pretty much done. So, yeah, the Cards and the Texans get their wins, hurting the Cards' chances of getting the first and second pick this year as those two teams winning. So I don't know. We'll see. Josh Dobbs played pretty solid. And like I said, the Texans got everything everything they needed to go their way went their way. Chargers and Vikings game was really fun and back and forth, and like every Chargers game ever comes down to the wire for somehow, some way. It always happens. And then Devontae Adams goes nuts on Sunday Night Football, but not quite enough. I did not see. I saw like the first quarter or so. It looks like the Raiders staged a little comeback late to try and get things a little more competitive, but I did not make it that far into the night. Other games, the Chiefs just absolutely roll the Bears. The Bears stink, man. Justin Fields can't pull the trigger. He's just back there just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Seahawks get a win over the Panthers. Andy Dalton looked pretty good, actually. I had the Seahawks in a parlay and then on their own, and I didn't love having to sweat out the fucking Red Rocket out there. Browns wreck the Titans. Bills wreck the Commanders. Patriots get a much-needed win over the Jets. I think that's pretty much everything. I think that's every game. We got a couple games tonight. We got the Eagles at the Bucks to kick us off, and then the Rams at the Bengals. Two pretty good games there, I think. Be interesting to see if the Bucks can hold on to the Eagles. Next week, what do we have? We have Lions heading to the Packers. Packers will be a slight underdog in that game at home. First of the London series, the Falcons head over to play the Jags. We have football from 8:30 in the morning till midnight. Gotta love it. Steelers, Texans, big matchups. Dolphins head to the Bills. That's a good one. That's an early one. 12 noon. High noon. Cardinals, 49ers, Chiefs, Jets. So nothing crazy outside of that Dolphins Bills one. Yeah. So what standings? I think there's only 4 undefeated teams left, right? Yeah, the Dolphins, the Eagles, the Bucks, and the 49ers. Obviously, the Eagles and Bucks play on Monday Night Football tonight, which I don't know if we're going to get a Monday night reaction on the road and shit like that. So it might just be this. So we're going to be down to 3 undefeated teams. Eagles now have the inside track to be first in their division. Packers and Lions tied first in the North. NFC South, it's going to be the Bucks could get out ahead of everybody there. There'll be a 3-way tie there. 49ers lead the NFC. AFC East, Dolphins, Bills. We get an early look at that. We got 3 teams at 2-1 in the AFC North, and the Bengals 0-2 so far. Broncos are 0-3 at the bottom of the AFC West, led by the Chiefs. The Colts are winning the AFC South. The Colts. Did I miss any other 0-3 teams? The Carolina Panthers, the Chicago Bears, and the Minnesota Vikings 0-3. I believe I picked the Minnesota Vikings to win the NFC North. Whoops. I did say there could be a cliff. I said they win or they're off a cliff. So maybe I'm right with the off a cliff. All right. That wraps up the NFL this week, ladies and gents. Let's talk some college football, shall we? After a pretty boring week last week, this week was something else. This one was exciting. Pretty good games all throughout the day. Some pretty surprising results in some, and some not so surprising results in others. Let's start with our boys, the Penn State Nittany Lions. Just total and utter domination of Iowa. Just, I mean, I don't know what else I can say about it. It was an ass kicking, just an absolute ass kicking, not kissing, ass kicking. Domination. 28 first downs for Penn State, 4 for Iowa. Iowa was 1 of 9 on third down. Penn State got it on fourth down 4 times. They even got under center and ran a QB sneak. Look at us. Look at us. Total yardage for Penn State, 397 yards. Total yardage for Iowa, 76. 3 sacks. Iowa fumbled the ball 6 times, and lost 4 of them. Oofta. Time of possession, Penn State had the ball for 45 and a half minutes to Iowa's 14 and a half. Drew Aller was not sensational, I don't think I would say, but did the right things. 25 of 37, 166. The running game was strong again. Katron Allen led them with 72 yards. And then Singleton had 50, and then Bo Prabula, who I think was the guy who came in late, had 56. Or was Potts who came in late? I don't know. But it was an ass kicking. It was kind of ugly. The weather was icky. It was 10-0 at halftime. It was only 3-0 after the first. But it's exactly what needed to be done. They needed to beat the shit out of Iowa and keep moving, and that's what they did. I mentioned not last week, but on the first week when NBC did the game against West Virginia, how the crowd sounded terrible. With CBS doing this game, the crowd sound was better. They were like going to the crowd and like just letting the crowd be the moment. And the Ohio State Notre Dame game, the crowd sound was fucking terrible. So NBC fucks up the crowd sound really bad. Like that's part of like a huge part of why like college football is fun is the crowds and everything. And NBC is just like totally like neutering it. So that really takes an element of fun out of watching games at big locations like Penn State and Notre Dame and Ohio State and Michigan and Alabama and places like that. So, the crowd it matters. Also, there was a fun game to kick the weekend off. Florida State, Clemson. Clemson should have had him, man. They should have had him. They had that kicker who they had to bring in, Jay White. What's his first name? Joseph? Is it Joseph? Is it going to let me even click on? Can I get to him? Whatever his name is. He hasn't even been on the team. He was like off doing grad school online, and they called him back because their kicker was out, and he made his first field goal kick, but then he had a chance to win it, and he snipe hooked a 30-yarder, and they end up losing in overtime. Florida State scores first. And then Clemson, on 3rd and 4th down in overtime, they've got A.Q. Shipley, and they don't give him the ball. It's like 3rd down and 1 and 4th down and 1. He might be the best player on your team. Give him the fucking football. Give him the football. Rutgers kept it close with Michigan for, the first half, and then it just kind of got out of control. What else? Miami killed them. Alabama says, we're not done yet, people. They handled Ole Miss pretty good. UCLA Utah was a close one. I didn't watch any of that game though, so it might be a little closer than it looked. Yeah, UCLA scored a touchdown with about 3:30 left in the game. Oh, Utah interception right off the gate. But the other big game at the 2:30 slot, the 3:30 slot Eastern, Colorado went to Oregon, and they had to play their first, real test. This isn't Colorado State. This isn't Nebraska. This wasn't a TCU team that lost everybody from the year before. And I think we found out there's levels, and right now Colorado is not on Oregon's. The pass rush for Oregon was absolutely incredible. I mean, you talk about stats. I read off some stats for Penn State. This was the first half, I believe. 409. Yeah, this was the first half. Oregon had 21 first downs, 378 yards, and Colorado had 23 yards. They had negative 33 yards rushing. I know Colorado was out Travis Hunter. Don't think that would have mattered too much. There's levels, and Colorado was 1-11 last year, and they finally had to play, a top tier team. And unfortunately for them, it doesn't get easier next week. They got USC next week, so oofta, look out. What else was going on in the world of college football? Oh yeah. There's a big game to end the night. Ohio State and Notre Dame. Ohio State comes through with a last-second touchdown to win the game over Notre Dame. Notre Dame had an interception go through a guy's fingertips on the final drive. Apparently, I was seeing some stuff on Twitter that they only had 10 guys on the field for those final plays. So, ouch. But Ohio State goes into Notre Dame, picks up a big win, and Ryan Day goes absolutely fucking scorched earth on Lou Holtz at the end of the game. Lou Holtz had made some comments leading up to the game, and Ryan Day not pleased with it, and he let the fucking world know. So yeah, it was a fun week of college football. We actually got some top 25 matchups. I am recording this Sunday, so the new top 25. Yeah, it's not out. This is just a projection. Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Iowa State up to 3, Texas 4, Florida State 5, USC 6, Penn State stays at 7, which I think is pretty much what's going to happen. Colorado moves up a spot. Notre Dame back to 11. Alabama stays pretty much put in this one. North Carolina and Duke sneak up a little bit. Miami sneaks up a little bit. Oregon State falls back. Oh, the Oregon State-Washington game. The Washington State coach was like freaking out that game day was disrespecting him. And, because Corso said it's like the nobody watches or nobody wants him bowl. And he was having a day with that. And they've got Kentucky, Kansas, and Missouri sneaking in while Colorado, UCLA, and Iowa go out. That sounds about right. So not a ton of difference. Next week, there's some decent matchups again next week, I believe. First off, our boys at Penn State head to Northwestern, and that's an early game, 11 a.m., different time zone, a little bit of travel, bye week the following week. Like that's a trip-up game. Don't get tripped up by fucking Northwestern. After that, they have UMass, and then after that, they head to Ohio State. So a couple of weeks, 3 weeks here where there's two lower tier opponents, and then a bye week sandwich between those before they get to the big game, the Ohio State game in Ohio State, and then they host Michigan later in the year. USC at Colorado, like I said, USC's coming to town in Colorado. I don't know. Maybe Colorado bounces back and we can rush the fucking field again, boys. We can only hope. LSU and Ole Miss, that should be a good one. And talk about not getting any rest either. Notre Dame has to go to kind of like this kind of upcoming Duke team that's been pretty good and is kind of climbing the rankings. So some good matchups again next week as well. So a fun week in college football this week. Should have a fun one the following as well. So looking forward to that. Anyone interested in some passing thoughts? Because you're getting them whether you want them or not. Here they come. I did catch a little of the Solheim Cup this weekend, mostly just Sunday. I was catching the singles. I saw periodically Thursday and Friday and Saturday. I would flip it on for 5 or 10 minutes. I watched a decent amount on Sunday after I woke up. And I will say I was kind of like walking by. I was like, oh, we're going out to walk the dog. I'm gonna throw this on. Got back from walking the dog, checked it out. Was at the gym, had it on my phone. Came back from the gym. Like I was in and out. And fucking Golf Channel's absolute refusal to show a fucking scoreboard was maddening. I can't tell you. It was at least 5 or 6 times when I watched. And like I said, I probably watched combined like 2.5 hours. They would like pan to these like high shots, just like overlooking the course. And it's like, that's where the fucking scoreboard goes. So I know what's happening in all these matches. And they're just refusing. And they're leaving it in these shots for like a minute. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was 30, 40 seconds. Whatever it was plenty long enough for them to just slap a scoreboard up there and be like, hey, this is where everything stands. You know, it would be nice to know these things. But nope. You just had to guess or go on the fucking website that didn't work for shit. So, also probably a preview. It's going to happen. Some heartbreaking loss by the Americans, and the Euros retain the cup. Yeah, that'll probably happen. So, but go USA. I caught Kurt Angle was on Joe Rogan, and then I watched his documentary on Peacock that he's kind of like out promoting. Very good. If you're a fan of like amateur wrestling, you'll like it as well. Even if you're a fan of like pro wrestling, like that, if that's where you know Kurt Angle, you'll like that too. So a little bit in there for both. He was saying, I think he said on Rogan, he said 2,700 Viking in a month. On the documentary, he ended up saying like 18 or 1,900. Either way, if you go 1,800, that was like 60 a day. And he was saying at times he was taking 20 Vicodin at a time. Holy fucking Christ, that's a lot of fucking pills. But yeah, it's a fun documentary. The dude won the Olympic medal with a broken freaking neck, of course. He also broke his neck like 7 times or something like that. But very, very cool documentary. I didn't know he was around with the when the Dave Schultz thing happened with DuPont, the crazy guy who killed Dave Schultz. So good documentary, good watch. I would recommend it. I've also started watching Peacemaker on HBO Max with John Cena. Pretty good, worth a watch. I would recommend that as well. So the other night, these are where this next 2 topics come from. I'm just kind of like flipping through the TV, trying to catch something to watch, and I find Fear Factor is on. I was like, I haven't watched this thing in years. What a wild show! I mean, on this episode, it was all couples who were broken up. It was the weirdest fucking thing. And Rogan's always said, like, on his podcast that he was, like, high as fuck doing that show all the time. So I was just, like, watching him. I was like, oh, my God. He wasn't lying. He's acting stoned out of his mind. These fucking broken up couples had to get out there and, like, hold each other on a rope while this boat was flying down the water. And they were, like, trying to pull tags off. And they got a little further every time. Just a wild show. Also that night, scanning around, I found Moneyball. So actually what I ended up putting on. I only watched Fear Factor for, like, 5 minutes. Ended up putting Moneyball on. How good of a movie is Moneyball, man? God, I love that movie. It's so good. Yes, I know. They completely ignore the fact that they had 3 of the best pitchers in the league at that time. Mulder, Hudson, and Zito. And Barry Zito won a couple of Cy Youngs. And they pretty much completely ignore that they had Miguel Tejada, who won the MVP. They make it all seem like it was Scott Hatteberg and David Justice and the reliever. Why can't I've lost the reliever. Isringhouse. No, Isringhouse left. Chad Bradford. Yeah, Chad Bradford. But it's still a fun movie. It's still really good. The acting's good. Jonah Hill and Brad Pitt are fantastic in it. Love that movie. Speaking of movies, I also love Vince Vaughn was on Game Day. He was the guest picker for this week. He came out wearing the Notre Dame jacket that he wore in Rudy. Made a couple of comments alluding to the fact that if he had half the heart of Rudy, being All-American, so that was pretty funny. He also hit him with the rule number 76, no excuses, play like a champion. And it got me thinking, that movie's got to be close to 20 years old. I think it was like 05. See if I can figure it out for sure. 05. We're got to be getting to a point where there's plenty of people, like in college, 2005, who haven't seen Wedding Crashers. Like Wedding Crashers, old school, like that whole run of like those R-rated comedies, old school Wedding Crashers, Step Brothers, all that shit. Like, are we getting to a point where like the kids, the youths, haven't seen it and don't know? I'm starting to think we might be. I'm worried because I was like, oh my God, there's definitely a portion of people who, when he hit the rule number 76, no excuses, play like a champion, had no fucking clue what he was talking about. And that hurts me. Ooh, this is kind of college football tie-in as well. there aren't enough sing-alongs. I mean, this can go in anywhere, but I got thinking of it. I love a good sing-along moment. Like Michigan does Mr. Brightside between the third and fourth quarter. That's fantastic. And then Florida does I Won't Back Down. More of these. Get more of them out there. Oh, this is, I should have done this with the Solheim Cup. Golf Channel was putting Tide on the matches, and Monty, Colin Montgomery, had a problem with it. He said, it's all square here in Europe. It's not Tide. They do that in America. Dickhead. Golf Channel's from America. Fuck off. Quit being such a dork. Ooh. Made some patty melts yesterday. Ooh. Right on the old Blackstone. Delicious. A good patty melt. Got some nice Texas toast. Smash those burgers down nice. Some cheese. Some good fried up onions. Oh, delicious. And I guess we'll end this one. I gotta read it. I want to preface this with, there is zero chance he actually sent this tweet. Some staffer did it. Oh no, I've lost it. Here it is. President Joe Biden from @POTUS. Concert tickets are hard enough to get. You shouldn't have to pay surprise service fees on top of that. My administration is working to crack down on those junk fees, so you know what you are paying for up front. Concert tickets. That's what we're worried about. Good job, boys. Our government works so well. They're just a fucking fantastically efficient fucking group of people. What fucking losers. All right, let's go wrap this thing up. Closing time, everybody. Just want to say thank you to everybody. As always, appreciate you guys listening, watching. And as always, if you can, subscribe, comment, rate, review, share, do all the good stuff. So thank you guys so much. Big thank you as always to Kevy. Keeps this thing rolling for us, keeps it edited, gets it together, gets it back to me in a fucking quick turnaround, and lets me get this back out to everybody. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kevy. Back next week for a full episode, and I am going to do some live shows, some Ryder Cup reaction. Definitely going to do one on Saturday and Sunday. We'll see about Friday. I don't know if I'm taking the day off for work or the afternoon off or what I'm going to do. If I do, I'll do a show. If I don't, then you just get them Saturday and Sunday, which I think everybody can live with. If you're a friend of the pod, welcome invitation. Everybody's welcome to come on and call in and dial in and join in or whatever the hell you want to call it. So back next week, Ryder Cup reactions, more NFL football, all the good stuff. So thank you guys. Appreciate all you. Till next week. Peace.